said family. And she came to the UK and went to the property and asked them, after sending text messages and other things like that, to try and communicate with them. And at no point was there a verbal exchange between anyone involved for her to stop these communications. There was no blocking or anything like that. And once the DNA result of 67% was released and she came back to the UK, she was instantly arrested at the airport. Now, it's interesting because players came into play right as that information came out. We were all celebrating, okay? Julia, for whatever reason, was coaxed into getting on a plane to the UK, and then new players in this saga seemed to not have been the best decision. Because as soon as that 67% was announced and she stepped foot back in this country, she was arrested. And then all of those headlines about a 67% DNA match for Julia to be related to the father of a famous lost child, all of the news headlines quickly changed to, oh, crazy woman back in the UK claiming to be this, crazy that. It was, okay, Danielle, 1 second, please. Thank you very much. I will show you. One moment, please. One moment, please. Oh, my tummy is rumbling. Okay, so this was days before Julia's arrest. Come on. There we go. You can see here, 17th of February. Woman claiming to be Madeleine McCann releases bombshell new DNA test results 18 years after the British toddler disappeared in Portugal. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah. The final analysis of the DNA results led to the most explosive claims in a 3-part post. Ms. VANDELT's source making a perfect match with her DNA to the samples taken from the scene of the toddler's disappearance. The source, who allegedly wishes to remain anonymous, is said to have had analyzed her hair obtained from the floor on the crime scene in Portugal, as well as the saliva obtained from the bed quote scene, which were all publicly put in the report. After cross-referencing, the source said the results showed a 69.23% match, suggesting a biological connection between the two individuals. They also said that VANDELT's DNA can be fully linked as being inherited from the father's profile. Fully linked as being inherited, fully linked, said to be from Jerry McCann's DNA sample, which was used from the official report from a certain agency that is in charge of all of this, that they represented as his DNA. They concluded by saying the genetic evidence strongly supports that McCann could be Julia VANDELT's biological father. Is there any twins in the family? Is there any evidence of a really weird twin conspiracy? Because metaphorically speaking, if you've got twins inside you and you're part of a big mad cabal and you tell everyone you're pregnant and you've got a baby on the way and you come home with one baby, right? No one's going to question where that other baby's gone. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm just saying that is weird. Okay. As the data aligns perfectly with parental-child relationship. Now, isn't it interesting that history shows us that Julia comes out with something and then a character comes into play that then subsequently derails and destroys everything? Now, Julia came to the UK and then was arrested immediately at the airport, like proper movie style, like touchdown, bosh, gonzo. Our friend Karen was arrested, you know? Shout out to Karen. Karen's story and all this is mad. Like her whole prison situation. I can't talk about any of it, but when they can, man, that woman, wild what she had to go through. They both have gone through, but we can't talk about that right now. What is that you've sent me, Agent Orange? Yeah, I don't know, mate. I don't know. So this all happened, and then Julia's arrested, and all the headlines suddenly become, "Oh, crazy lady's at it again." And then we also had an American girl come out of nowhere claiming to be a famous missing girl to almost give credibility to, well, look how many people say this. You know? It's interesting. And what's even more interesting is just how strong Julia continues to be in all this. And the mistrust and the cautiousness that she has to have with people. You know, I'm working with somebody, Colin, big shout out Colin, right, who has been putting up, you know, getting great information, great sources, and then I'm pressing the sources. Well, she's having to press them for me, pressing the sources, and you've got to with a situation like this, because there's going to be so many people trying to get in and derail things. So big shout out to everyone that is doing the right thing with this whole getting Julia out of prison. And hang on a second, let me check my notes. Okay. 1 second, sorry. Okay. So all of this I'm going to save for the next live again, because I'm rather be accountable myself. Now, if I was somebody who was against Julia and had spent thousands of hours trying to discredit or put evidence out that you feel proves your point, I implore you to watch this series that we are starting, because numbers and data, genealogy, DNA, there are people who are smarter than me that know about these things that are going to explain some things. And if we start looking at coincidences and weirdness, you can almost allow for a certain level of, okay, that's weird, but it's normal. For example, we were just talking about the Epstein case earlier today, and the fact that Epstein's lawyer passed away suddenly, but he was 80 years old, you know? But does that mean that there's nothing suspicious? I don't know. But with Julia and this whole case, we need to assess it from a, why is this happening the way it's happening in this circumstance? Why is she being treated the way that she is by the justice system? It's not about me telling you to think she's one thing or another. I'm not telling you that she's innocent or that she's guilty. You know, that would